Welcome to Bodhi Unified Flow. I'm Dr. Mariamuthu, your host. Here, we simplify complexity and amplify performance. Today, we're exploring a truly foundational theory for production management. It's called the Transformation, Flow, and Value Theory, or TFV for short. Now, TFV Theory isn't just another buzzword you hear in a meeting. It's a completely different way of looking at things. It's a powerful framework that helps us understand and improve basically any production system you can think of. It redefines how we see production, pushing us way beyond the traditional and honestly outdated way of thinking.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start by looking at the old, traditional view of production. Then we'll deconstruct the three pillars of TFV. After that, we'll see how they all integrate into one powerful framework, and how you can use it as a strategic tool. And finally, we'll touch on where it's being adopted and what the future might hold.
And by the time we're done here, you're going to have a really clear grasp of these key concepts. You'll not only understand what they are, but you'll see how they can be practically applied.
All right, let's dive in. To really get why TFV theory is such a game changer, we first need to understand the problem it was created to solve, and that starts with a narrow, traditional way we used to look at production.
You know, for the longest time, this was pretty much the only view. You take your inputs, materials, labor, information, and you do something to them to get your outputs, say a finished building. The focus was almost exclusively on optimizing each individual task. But what about all the stuff that happens between the tasks? The waiting, the moving, the inspecting. All of that was just kind of swept into what you could call a black box, completely hiding massive, and I mean massive inefficiencies.
So it's time to crack open that black box. TFV theory gives us three distinct but interconnected lenses to view production through. It gives us a whole new way of seeing, and it begins by re-examining that traditional idea of transformation itself.
So the TFV model doesn't just toss out the transformation view, not at all. It recognizes it's a necessary component. This is the what of production. It's the physical, hands-on work of converting materials into products, the hammering, the coding, the assembling. These are the value-adding activities. But, and this is a big but, it's only one piece of a much, much larger puzzle.
Okay, now here is where we get the first major paradigm shift, the flow view, or the how. This perspective isn't focused on the tasks themselves, but on the movement between the tasks. It encourages us to see production as a continuous stream, a flow of materials, information, and work moving through the system.
The core goal of the flow perspective is to make the entire process as smooth and continuous as possible. And how do we do that? By ruthlessly identifying and eliminating non-value-adding activities, or what we often call waste. And waste can be anything: waiting for parts, moving materials unnecessarily, even redundant inspections. By cutting out this waste, you reduce lead times, you reduce variability, and the whole process becomes way more efficient. This brings us to the third, and you could argue the most profound pillar, value. This is the why. Why are we doing any of this in the first place? This view defines the ultimate purpose of production not by the thing we create, but by its ability to satisfy the customer. It's about fulfilling their requirements.
And here's the crucial part. Value can only be defined by the ultimate customer, not by us, not by the engineers, not by the designers, by the end user. And that value is often subjective, it's personal, and it can change over time. So our main goal becomes eliminating value loss. That's the gap between what we delivered and what the best possible value for the customer would have been. And to do that, we have to capture all their requirements, both the ones they tell us and the latent ones they don't even know they have yet.
Okay, so we've got the three pillars: transformation, the what; flow, the how; and value, the why. Now, let's see how these parts come together to form one cohesive and really powerful theory. This is a question I see a lot, and it highlights a common misconception. Do we have to choose? Should we focus on transformation, or flow, or value? The answer to that question is really the core of the theory's power. And the answer is a resounding no. They are not separate choices. This table illustrates it brilliantly. T, F, and V are simultaneous, complementary phenomena. They're all happening at once in any production system. To be successful, you have to manage them all, together. You have to be efficient in your transformations, you have to eliminate waste to improve flow, and you have to do all of that in service of creating the best possible value for your customer. If we want to go a little deeper, there's a philosophical foundation here. The traditional transformation view aligns with what's called thing metaphysics. It sees production as a series of static things, of inputs and outputs.
But TFV theory challenges us to adopt a process metaphysics. It asks us to see production not as a series of things, but as a dynamic, continuous process of becoming. And that shift in perspective is what makes the flow and value views truly possible.
So now that we have the theory down, let's move on to the really exciting part: how this builds into a powerful business strategy that can reshape how an entire company operates.
Check out this strategic hierarchy because it's completely counterintuitive for most organizations. Traditional management starts at the bottom with operations, optimizing tasks to cut costs. TFV flips that entire model upside down. You start with value. You first define and maximize what the customer truly finds valuable. Then you design and improve your processes, your flow, to deliver that value as smoothly as possible. And only then, as the final step, do you optimize the individual transformation tasks.
And why is this so powerful? Well, financial models have shown that a 10% improvement in flow can yield the same growth in profit as a 10% price increase. Think about that. Improving your internal processes can be just as impactful as raising your prices, but without any of the market risks. It makes improving flow a far more effective long-term strategy than just chasing traditional cost-cutting.
So where can we see this thinking in the real world today? And what's on the horizon for TFV?
You can actually see TFV's influence across a lot of industries. In software, the whole shift from the rigid, transformation-focused waterfall model to more fluid, flow, and value-focused agile methodologies is a perfect example. In green building, it's all about balancing resource efficiency, T, waste reduction, F, and the stakeholders' sustainability goals, V. And digitalization, with tools like BIM and digital twins, is a huge enabler, giving us the transparency we need to manage all three aspects at once. Of course, it's not without challenges. A common barrier, especially in construction, is that fragmented layers of subcontractors can really hinder a smooth flow and a shared goal of creating value.
Okay, let's just quickly summarize the crucial points we've covered. First, production is not just transformation. It's a simultaneous system of T, F, and V. Second, the customer, and only the customer, is the ultimate arbiter of value. Third, improving your flow is a massive driver of profitability. And finally, the strategic sequence is always value, then flow, then operations.
So we've successfully covered a lot of ground. We've seen the limits of the old way of thinking. We've defined transformation, flow, and value. We've explained how they integrate into a single framework, and we've recognized how to apply it as a powerful business strategy.
And that leaves me with one final provocative question for you to take away. I want you to look at your own work, at your own projects and processes. Ask yourself honestly, are you just managing transformations, or are you truly engineering a flow that creates exceptional value? Thank you for joining me here on Bodhi Unified Flow. If you want to explore this topic further, these key sources are an absolutely fantastic place to start. I'll see you next time.